Hey folks, Dave Astor, Solution Architect here for GitLab. I'm going to take about 3 minutes of your time today to level you up on GitLab.com authentication. One thing before we get started is that I just want to clarify that the solution that we're going to describe today is solely for our SaaS offering. This is not for a self-hosted solution. We've got a whole different set of solutions and offerings for that. When prospects and customers elect for a SaaS offering like GitLab.com, they of course have the ability for each user to authenticate themselves with a username and password combination. However, that requires a lot of administration and overhead to make sure that the right users are then associated to the appropriate group. Oftentimes, organizations want to have a bit more control. They're going to want to understand who can log into their group, and they're going to want to make sure that it's as easy and seamless as possible for their users to get in. When customers are looking for information on this topic, you're going to hear terms like SAML, LDAP. You're going to hear things like SCIM or SCIM. They may ask about single sign-on or SSO, and then they may even mention the term IDP, identity provider. When you hear those terms, you can pretty much ensure that they're looking for ways for how users can access the system. An example question you may get is, we know we want to have a SaaS solution, but we want to make sure that our identity provider can work with it. How can GitLab help me here? And the answer to that, the solution we have is single sign-on, SSO, for GitLab groups. Right? This is available in the silver tier and above. A single sign-on, what it does, a single sign-on for groups, it aligns the user to the top level organization within the group. Now, the value of single sign-on is that a user can then enter their credentials into a central identity provider, which can then provide their credentials or access to the other applications throughout their organization. I want you to think about how we use Okta here at GitLab. Okta is our central identity provider. You can enter your information there, and then you can access things like Expensify, Zendesk, whatever it may be. This is going to free businesses up from needing to hold passwords in a database and really cut down on login troubleshooting. Some gotchas that you may get, they may ask about LDAP support. LDAP, just for lack of a better way, is another way that users can authenticate into an instance. If they do need LDAP support, you're going to want to steer them towards self-hosting GitLab, where that is supported, right? Because LDAP is not supported on GitLab.com. In the future, what we'd like to see in the next upcoming releases is we want to see more flexibility at the subgroup level. Right now, GitLab for SSO for GitLab groups allows them to access that top level organizational group. But imagine some contractors coming in and you want to make sure that they have access to the subgroups only and not the top level group. So we want to make sure it has more flexibility and allows group owners to manually override the SSO enforcement and provide access to the users only at the subgroup level. I saw this on the roadmap for the next 1 to 3 releases. So to wrap it up, we talked about, hopefully this helps you understand a little bit more about authentication on GitLab.com. We talked about SSO for GitLab groups. We talked about it being in the silver tier and above. I mentioned these 4 IDPs that are supported. You can see them here. And again, it is not available for self-hosting. We have a lot more solutions available for that. You ever find yourself in a jam, just remember this mnemonic, that .com has 3 letters, and so does SSO. There you go. Hope that helps out. Again, thanks very much and have a great one.